For all the calls to release the Epstein docs, a whole new tranche just came out today, and it's not the ones people were expecting. Bloomberg got 18,000 leaked emails. These have never been public before, from Epstein's personal email account. He was using Yahoo. And it sheds new light on his predatory tactics. It also continues to reinforce what the DOJ, under Ms. Comey, the now fired prosecutor, showed in her prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell, that she was a big part of this criminal enterprise, not, as she said in her interview, some sort of hanger-on as people did consensual things. Now, as for the president, who has been so suspicious about this, who vowed to do transparency and then broke that vow, well, there's not a lot of clear new information that shows what Trump was up to with Epstein, although we know from prior information that they had a kind of social relationship. You've seen the photos. Bloomberg reports these newly released emails do demonstrate Maxwell's knowledge of the legal jeopardy Epstein faced all the way back in that first case that we've reported on from the 2000s in Florida, and that Epstein negotiated a plea deal in 2008. He sought her advice. Quote, question, which one do you prefer, lewd and lascivious conduct or procuring minors for prostitution? Quite a grim question if you're choosing among those cases. Maxwell responding, quote, I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct. I would prefer lewd conduct with a prostitute if possible. Now, they're discussing the plea deal, not whether he did all of the above. Of course, the way the conversation goes, they don't sound shocked that they're in this situation. Remember, in her Trump DOJ interview, she downplayed her relationship with Epstein at that very time.
So when he's going to go to jail, he says, can you stay around and manage everything?
Yeah.
And do you do that?
I do.
Okay. And then we'll come back to that.
I will not manage everything, no. I mean, there are other people at this point. My specific role then was very, very diminished.
However one thinks of a diminished role compared to the past, Bloomberg finds they exchanged over 200 messages in 6 months of that first year. Trump's name does come up in 3 minor instances. That's the Bloomberg word, and they've obviously gone through all this quite carefully. In 2007, Maxwell wrote reporters may have interviewed Trump about Epstein's case. You have to assume they went to Donald Trump, she notes. That's neither here nor there on Donald Trump's role. Many of Epstein's emails also discuss the predatory manipulation of those young women and sometimes girls. From a legal perspective, includes minors, according to, of course, the case. He and Maxwell discussed how to recruit and groom those young women and then discredit anyone who became an accuser. NBC has not obtained these emails or independently verified the Bloomberg report, we should note, and the revelations come as Epstein survivors have been speaking out.
Accountability is what makes a society civilized.
I would like to announce here today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them.
We are tired. However, we are not going away. We will not stop or give up.
Jason Leopold, the senior investigative Bloomberg reporter, joins us now. The lead on what is a clearly big break in understanding more about this sordid case. Epstein's inbox is how Bloomberg put it. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on, Ari.
What do these emails add to the public understanding about this case?
It adds a lot. As you noted, we have 18,000 emails. And in the emails that we highlighted here, in this very lengthy story about Ghislaine Maxwell's partnership with Jeffrey Epstein, which was far closer than the public knows, you're getting an opportunity to see just how close they really were. Right up until Jeffrey Epstein was getting ready to report to prison, they discussed fertility, shared fertility treatments. They talked about the legal case. You read some of those emails about when Jeffrey Epstein was asking her what she would prefer, what she thought that he should, potentially plead guilty to. but also just how much she helped to kind of run the business of Jeffrey Epstein. Within these emails, we also uncovered an accountant's spreadsheet that tracked nearly $2 million in spending, and which amounted to some gifts, some cash payments to victims, to very prominent public figures. There was a car for Alan Dershowitz, which he told us was for his wife. There was a watch, $11,000 Rolex watch for Tom Barrack, who's now the ambassador to Turkey. He told us he never received a watch. So you're getting an opportunity to see details about the business dealings, but also disturbingly, there is a lot of information there about Jeffrey Epstein's callousness toward these young women, these underage girls. There's one very disturbing, chilling email in which he is berating this woman who is working for him because she doesn't want to engage in fun sex things. So between Jeffrey Epstein and kind of getting a sense of what he sounds like through these emails in his own words, and the way in which Ghislaine Maxwell was really trying to promote Jeffrey Epstein in social circles, you learn quite a bit.
What was Epstein's main business? He clearly had a knack or an almost con man's ability to get himself in all sorts of rooms around all sorts of people. We know how many have distanced themselves later. But given the nature of the sex crimes that were already exposed, it would appear that some people had knowledge of it. That's what the birthday book shows. Some people, we can't name names without a legal and investigative process, but some people, understandably, were probably closer to it and may have partaken in it. He has the whole island, and he has all these other allegations. And then there's this wider concentric circle, and I'm wondering if you found the emails show any of this, where he seems to be pulling people in to sort of credential himself as he goes along, continuing to abuse others and make it, I guess, harder for him to ever actually face accountability for it. That seemed to work for some period of time.
Well, as we noted in the story, there is, many emails which show an intense lobbying campaign. That much is public. That took place behind the scenes. What's kind of fascinating about it is seeing how it played out. As far as the business, that's obviously a question that remains unanswered in terms of the source of his wealth. What I can tell you is that we're continuing our reporting around that. But really, it is, getting a sense of kind of what the day-to-day was like. I mean, I also want to...
Let me ask you on that. You mentioned, because the reporting talks about it being at times mundane, and we've seen throughout history references to the banality of evil, to use the famous phrase from Hannah Arendt. But did you also find any hint that through the email and other references that he was ever threatening or blackmailing others to maintain his own criminal web?
No, as our reporting shows in this story, he was berating and manipulating, emotionally abusing the women who had worked, with him, for all sorts of different reasons. So that much comes through within our reporting. I also just want to note that there are mundane issues, mundane emails that that we found in there, such as his Amazon purchases, which honestly I found fascinating, if you will, just in terms of getting a sense of what he was thinking. There's purchases for Nabisco Nilla wafers. There are purchases for an FBI agent's costume, a prostate massager. Some things that are.
I got one more.
well.
I got one more question for you before I lose you, which is we've talked much about what your reporting showed. One thing the emails don't show is a bombshell about Trump, which is fine. You follow the evidence. You do have a reference in September 06. This was after Epstein was charged. And there's 51 politicians and other executives on the list. And it says, please review list and add or remove Peeps. From Maxwell, quote, remove Trump, Epstein responded. Was he the only person removed? And what did you make of that?
There was one other person removed. I mean, we reached out to the White House for comment on it. And the White House responded by stating, as we noted in the story, that this was fake news.
But remove Trump means what? We don't know? You don't know?
We haven't been able to further find out what that means. It's as we note in the story.
The FBI and Utah police postponing a news conference, citing, quote, rapid developments in our investigation, end quote. And now a source tells CNN that FBI Director Kash Patel is en route to Utah to assist the investigation. Hello, everyone. I'm Casey Hunt. Welcome to the arena. Those rapid developments coming just hours after they released these photos of a person of interest connected to the case. The person seen wearing a hat, sunglasses, a long-sleeve shirt. Let's be clear, the FBI says this is a person of interest. They have not yet identified them formally as a suspect. Earlier in the day, police announced that they've recovered what they believe to be the murder weapon, a high-powered rifle alongside ammunition and a screwdriver in a wooded area near the crime scene. Sources tell CNN that the rifle and the ammunition were marked with phrases related to cultural issues. We are still working through what those phrases and cultural issues are, but authorities are analyzing them as they try to identify the suspect. The FBI is now offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to their arrest.
Any attack on the First Amendment is an attack on the very foundation of our democracy. That is why we will relentlessly pursue this case and the shooter until we find him.
All right, our panel is here, but then we're going to get started with our CNN team. CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez, national correspondent Nick Watt, who is on the campus of Utah Valley University. CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes is with us, and CNN's senior law enforcement analyst, the former deputy director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, is here. And Kristen, I do want to start with you because any minute now, the vice president, J.D. Vance, set to land in Utah. We now know Kash Patel is also on his way there. What else are you hearing from this administration as they grapple with the death of a close friend and, of course, a key political ally?
Well, Casey, look, there's still a lot of grief, there's a lot of sadness, and there's also a lot of anger. But one thing to point out about what we're seeing with Vice President J.D. Vance, I mean, they are clearly treating Charlie Kirk like he's not just part of the administration, but that he was part of their actual families. Vice President J.D. Vance was supposed to be in New York on 9/11 to commemorate that. Instead, he flew to Utah while there is an investigation into a assassin who targeted a conservative activist, a friend of his, who is still on the loose, so not ideal security-wise, to meet with Kirk's family and then bring Kirk's body back to Arizona, where he is from, on Air Force Two. You obviously are seeing this enhancement from the FBI, bringing out the director to have him on the ground as well. They are treating this in every aspect as though Kirk was a member of their own family. And in some ways, when you talk to these administration officials and these Trump advisors, they feel like he was. They do feel this sense of loyalty to one another, a very small, tight-knit group of people who has been with Trump for so many years. And they believe that Kirk was part of that. So that's why you're seeing such a difficulty with this White House as they grapple with this. We just heard from Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. She did an interview with Scott Jennings on his radio show where she said she talked to all of them last night, all of the staffers, saying, go home and hug your family and then speak louder, because that's what Charlie Kirk would have wanted. This is hitting them all very hard. And it's something that I'm talking to a number of these Trump advisors who say they're still processing it.
No, of course, incredibly difficult to grapple with on so many levels for them. Evan Perez, the news conference that was scheduled for this afternoon was postponed because of these, quote, rapid developments. What might that mean? What are your sources telling you about the investigation?
Well, we know right now that there's still no arrest. And so whatever rapid developments are, they do not involve an arrest. And so the FBI is still grappling with really trying to get the public to provide tips. That's the reason why you've seen those new images. I think there was a debate behind the scenes because, investigators tend to want to keep these details to themselves while they work the investigative details, the evidence that they have at hand. But it might be an indication that they really have run out of those, and so they need the public to provide more tips. And so that's where we're at. The biggest piece of evidence right now so far is really the firearm that has been recovered. We talked a little bit about, and you mentioned those markings, those etchings that were on the firearm. And I should note that those were from initial reports from the field that some analysts have been interpreting what they mean. Until there's an arrest, we don't know exactly what those mean. And so that's part of the reason why I think investigators are hesitant about drawing any conclusions about this, Casey. And at this point, again, because time is of the essence, they need to find a way to find this person before they perhaps carry out another shooting. I mean, that's the other possibility here that investigators have to keep in mind, that this person was doing this and may have other possible targets in mind. And so that is also a top concern for investigators. But the reason, the fact that you have Kash Patel going to the scene, Dan Bongino, I'm told, is also headed there. He's the deputy director of the FBI. What it tells you is that this is a high priority for the FBI, for this administration, and it's for those reasons that Kristen just laid out there just a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, no, of course. And let's bring in, on that note, Nick Watt. You're on the ground in Utah. What are you seeing? What are you hearing from a community that is, of course, mourning, but also concerned about some of the things that Evan was just laying out? There's a gunman on the loose.
Well, local officials were quick to reassure people here to say this was a targeted killing. They don't believe that the public is at risk. Now, listen, before Charlie Kirk came here, this campus was divided. A lot of people didn't want him to come. There was a petition trying to stop him coming. Now, this campus, although it's not in session, these students are kind of united in their condemnation of violence. It's been an interesting morning. It's now, by the way, 24 hours plus since the shooting. First thing this morning, we were told there were some key developments overnight. We were told that they had this good video of the suspect, that they were using technology, and they were very confident that they were going to extract an identification, an ID from that video. A couple of hours later, they clearly hadn't managed to do that, and that's when they released these images. Then we had this press conference that was supposed to happen about an hour ago, postponed because of rapid developments, then the $100,000 reward. Meantime, there are local officers as well as federal agents combing the area to the north, to the other side of this campus, which is where officials say this suspect fled. They are going door to door asking for ring camera video. They are trying to piece together his movements. And as the FBI special agent said this morning, we don't know how far he's gone. And remember, it's been 24 hours. So, we were inside the campus building earlier, and it was interesting to see some of the aftermath of the reaction. Of course, people are conditioned when they hear a gunshot to believe that there are going to be more. I was walking through inside the building and you could see a banana peel, a half-empty bag of chips, people who had just left their stuff and run. There were chairs knocked over. You could see the aftermath of that panic. Meantime, as you say, there is thoughts for the family, who we are now told Charlie Kirk's wife and children were actually here. There is a small memorial, and as you say, Charlie Kirk's body will be taken from here in Utah to Arizona later. So shock, and as I say, a community that was divided over whether Kirk should come, now pretty much united in the belief that he should not have been killed. Back to you.
Nick, can I also ask you about this spot shadow video of someone on the roof from yesterday? What do we know about that?
Yeah. Well, nothing further. I mean, you can see it was shot from inside the building right after the shot was fired, and you see this dark figure running across the roof. Now, that roof, we saw police tape up there later. We believe that that is the position from which the shooter loosed off that one round that killed Charlie Kirk. About 150 yards, clear line of sight across one other roof. Then local officials tell us they believe that this gunman turned, ran, jumped down from the roof, and as I say, fled through the neighborhood to the north. That is where they found this weapon. That is where they are concentrating all of their investigations right now. Multiple different locations. We've been told that they basically, the crime scenes are dependent on where the victim and the suspect traveled. And they have managed to put together a bit of a timeline. You know, they now say that the suspect arrived just off campus 11:52. The Charlie Kirk event started at 12. This is all local time. 12:20 is when that round was fired. And, you know, you can see from the image, as we were told this morning, that this suspect is college age and, as we were told, could easily have blended in with the 3,000 or so people who were here on this campus to listen to Charlie Kirk and to debate with Charlie Kirk. So that is the focus right now, this photo and anything that they can find in that neighborhood over there. But listen, as I say, the FBI, the last we heard from them, they said, we don't know how far he's gone. 24 hours plus now.